Hey y'all, my name is Hunter and y'all are watching me cook. Basically, a little awkward and we're gonna go with this, but thank you for sitting in and watching the LGBTQ Center of Durham's Pride Week and our queer cooking special. For the first dish, because I'm gonna do two things back to back to make it a little bit easier while one thing is cooking. So we're going to start with the dish that's going to take a little bit longer. This is called Hoppin John. So I'm from the Midwest originally, but most of my family is from the South, from this region specifically. And I just moved back about almost a year ago now. And so I'm still learning about certain dishes, including Hoppin John, which I've never had before in my life, and not until about 2 weeks ago, and I'm in love. Because, of course, I tried out these recipes before, recording and making the decision to do it. But yeah, so the recipe is vegan Hoppin John from Sweet Potato Soul by Jenné Claiborne. And I have to make sure to give her credit because she just does such an amazing job at creating vegan options while emphasizing the importance of soul food and showing that black folks can have great vegan options that maybe weren't considered so before. So we're gonna get to cooking. Gotta turn up this bad boy because yes, I am working with some gas stoves here. Uh, Recipe says, I also gotta mention, I don't really use measuring cups and stuff or measuring spoons because I've been cooking since I was about 3 years old, and I just really wait until till my ancestors tell me to stop using seasoning or whatever. I'm pretty good at eyeballing some stuff too. So we're gonna start out with a little bit of olive oil in the bottom of this pan. That looks about good to me. Probably should have started heating this up while I was gapping my mouth, but that's neither here nor there. How y'all doing? I'm gonna let y'all just talk amongst yourselves in the chat, whatever you like. Because of course I'm recording this prior to showing the video, but y'all are in for a treat, and I really hope that y'all participate. I really hope that some of y'all go back and cook this for yourselves too, because it's so good. Let's see. Gotta heat that up. So once the oil is hot, I'm gonna add some onions, jalapeno, and celery. And so I already took the liberty of cutting some of this stuff out right here because it just makes it a lot less time consuming because y'all don't really want to see me cut up nothing. Like, I just did the basics. But we're gonna wait a little bit because patience is of the essence, and we got all the time in the world with being stuck at home, a lot more so recently. Um, but let's see, I give it about another minute. The reason why I chose vegan recipes is about a year ago, a little over a year ago actually, I was going through some very serious financial issues, and I wanted to learn how to make very little stretch for several meals. And so I decided that I was going to take a lot more effort into cooking vegetarian and vegan options. And I was also dating someone at the time who is a vegetarian. So I took it as a challenge, and I love a cooking challenge. And I learned a lot of really cool techniques that I'm still picking up along the way because obviously I'm no expert. I just like to cook. I like to eat. So that's that on that. But, you know, I like to cook whatever comes to mind. I grew up near a military base, so there is a lot of different influences in my life that made it impossible for me to not want to try everything. But yeah, so a little bit of ranting. I think this is hot enough now. We're gonna throw in a medium onion and a diced and seeded jalapeno and two cucumbers, good lord. Uh, two stalks of celery, because, you know, I can see. There we go. I don't know. I'm that person where I like to make sure that everything that was in the contents of said bowl gets put into the container. I don't know why I do that. I've always done that. And I know it irks some people because I'll be like, no, there's still a little bit in that corner. We need to scrape it out. But, you know, whatever. So, let's see. Gotta give this about 3 minutes. What you want to do here is stir it around a little bit, but the onions need to be about translucent. So right now they're at more of like a cloudy white color. You want them to be a little more see-through before we go on to the next step. And I'm just losing onion everywhere. Y'all don't judge me for this, okay? This is also the first time I'm recording myself cook. So, you know, there's that. I typically do podcast interviews and all that other stuff. So adding video to the mix, it's different, but not in a bad way. I think it's just trying to learn how I want things to be seen without showing my whole house. You know, I think seeing my stove is great because I love this kitchen. I'm gonna get the next bit of stuff on board. We have some garlic and a cup of rice, which is measured out in a pre-measured cup that I received as a gift. This one is 1 cup. I have a 2 cup as well as half, a third, and a quarter cup measurements, and I love them so much. And the recipe also called for 1 clove of garlic. As you can see, maybe you can't tell, but this is like maybe 3 cloves of garlic because I love me some garlic, and so I don't follow the rules too well, especially when it comes to cooking. And I live alone, so I can have all the garlic breath I want. Doesn't matter to me. But yeah, moving to the south. I am originally from Ohio. I don't know if I mentioned that. And it's been an interesting transition. I know when I first moved here, there were some serious culture shocks for me. Such as when I first got here, I don't think... Also, my hands are clean because I clean and wash and sanitize these bad boys all the time. They're a little dry, but whatever. I noticed that I had difficulty with communicating with people because they couldn't understand me and I couldn't understand them to a certain extent. And by that I mean I spoke a lot faster, and I didn't have certain twang that made it easier for some people to understand, I guess, what I was saying. So, for instance, I remember there was one incident where I was talking about how I was going to go to the gym. And, you know, I was explaining this to my hairstylist. And I said, yeah, I'm going to go to the gym. And she was like, wait, why are you going there? And I said, to go work out. She's like, but there's plenty over, you know, nearby. I said, oh, okay, that's fine. And I was like, but yeah, you know, I like to go to the gym. And she was like, oh wait, you said the gym. I thought you said you were going to Virginia. And I was wondering, why did she go to Virginia? So there was some things like that were going on. that, you know, now is funny, but I know back then I was just like struggling to understand how do I like fit in. And it'll probably be some stories that I always remember. Um, so these are almost translucent now. Another thing, being from the Midwest and the culture shock to coming down here, two things actually. Allergies. My goodness, I used to live in allergy pit, and when I moved down here, I didn't realize how good I had it back then. Um, and another thing is, I have to be so patient with folks when it comes to how slowly things are done around here. And it's definitely made me be more mindful of others as well as of just taking my time. Because, yeah, sometimes during the summer, it seems like the hotter it gets, the slower people walk in the South. Maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know. Drove me crazy. We'll see how the summer goes. May not be too much outdoor walking. Okay, so I think it's safe to move on to the next step, which is add garlic and some brown rice, and that's got to toast for about 30 seconds. So I used to never do this step until more recently, where I learned how great it is to let your rice kind of take on some of those aromatic flavors before you add on broth or anything that's going to help it to like steam and to eventually, you know, get that like nice rich consistency to it. This is a great step to kind of like blend all those flavors in before you let it sit and, you know, simmer and do its thing. So the next step is going to be adding a bay leaf, some dry thyme, black pepper, and then our broth. So I'll start getting some of that ready while this is doing its thing. Got some dried thyme because, you know, that was what was in my cupboard. Once again, we don't do no measurements here. The recipe calls for half a teaspoon of dried thyme. Then half a teaspoon of black pepper. Just sure. We got a bay leaf. There we go. The only thing that bugs me about cooking with bay leaves, hate that unfortunate situation where you're enjoying your food and then suddenly you chomp down on that bad boy. I'm very much a textures person. If I feel like part of the texture is wrong in a dish, I get just nauseous. I'm like, oh, nope, mm-mm. Gotten better about it over the years, but, you know, still some texture issues when it comes to something that I know shouldn't be a part of a dish. Okay. I don't know what that was about, but all right. Uh, so I'm gonna turn this on a simmer with a lid for about 10 minutes. So I'll set a timer for about 10 minutes, and then we'll add the black-eyed peas. And basically you just let this cook for about another 25 minutes after that. And so after we add the black-eyed peas to the mix, we'll go on to the next step, or to the next dish, which is going to be great. Okay, so we're back now. It's been about 10 minutes. It's looking pretty good. My kitchen's smelling amazing. Y'all can't smell it, but let me tell you right now, it smells amazing. Next step, gotta add 2 cans of black-eyed peas. All right. Stir that in a little bit. I just try to make sure that everything's got a nice little stir and kind of covered in the liquid. Great. Put the lid back on over that, and then we're going to move it over to simmer on low for about a good 25 minutes or so. I'll start the timer again, which will give us some time to start on the next dish. Okay, so the next recipe that we're going to do while the Hoppin John is simmering for a bit is vegan southern collard greens. But instead of using collard greens, I decided to go with kale because just change it up a little bit. You know, I really love kale. I love collard greens too. But I just love the consistency that it made with the kale over the collard greens. The benefit, though, of making it with collard greens is that they tend to retain a lot of their shape after cooking, which if y'all aren't familiar with cooking with greens, kale will tend to shrink up quite a bit. And, my family would typically make greens with a mix of a couple of different types, including mustard, kale, and collard greens. For the sake of time and, just to not have to cut up all these veggies, I just decided to go with kale. So, long story short, got to start off with this pan with some more olive oil. And the recipe, once again, is by Jenné Claiborne from Sweet Potato Soul. So just starting out with a little bit of olive oil in the bottom of the pan. There we go. I did preheat the pan this time. Give myself a little bit of the edge up. Where is this garlic? Here we go. So, what you're going to start off with is about 3 cloves. This might be 3, this might be 4. Who knows? But it's also a smaller container, so the whole volume measurement thing is a little bit off. Let's see. I'm going to turn that down just a little bit. Add the garlic, and you want to saute this until it gets to a little bit of a golden brown color. What I really love about this dish is that you can add or, subtract some stuff as you wish. The first time I made this, I used up some shredded carrots because I had just made a bunch of homemade carrot cake for my mom's birthday. So I had a bunch of shredded carrot left over, so I just threw it in there with that. I'll probably use some carrot shavings because I got a bunch from this local CSA in Durham that has just been amazing with the produce, and you're supporting local businesses. I believe the name is Fieldstone Gardens. Highly recommend if you want to support some local businesses. You know, farmers are hurting right now. As is, I know, everybody else. But it's also super affordable. I mean, I get like a week's worth of veggies for maybe 12 bucks. $12 to $15, and then you can add on whatever extras that may be of interest to you. I've recommended them to a couple of people because I really dig it, and it's contactless pickup once a week. They have like 4 different locations. I go to the one on West Gear Street because it's awesome. Probably should get rid of all this extra paper in my pocket. Goodness gracious. Okay, so smell the color we're looking for. Next step, adding 2 diced tomatoes. So we'll be cooking these for about another 3 minutes till they're soft. Okay. Sorry, y'all. I just like to read over the instructions to make sure I'm not screwing this up because I gotta eat this for the week, okay? So we'll let that soften up. Next step is adding the greens with a little bit of sea salt. It says a sprinkle, but you never can quite tell, I guess. And I would probably also just be a little bit easygoing on the salt with this because you're going to add soy sauce or tamari at the end of it, which is another very salty condiment. So typically, if I see that there's going to be a couple of different things that have salt in it, I'll just eliminate. So for this, I didn't add any extra salt. I just waited until the end and added the soy sauce, which I did look at the ingredients, and the soy sauce is vegan. Wonderful. Correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah. Water, soybeans, wheat, and salt. So, vegan. But if I'm wrong, y'all, just tell me. I like to learn, and especially since I'm not strict vegan, I'm much more of like what you would consider a carnivore minimalist. So I eat seafood and poultry, but I also emphasize eating a plant-based diet. So I'm still learning. But if I remember correctly, I think that some soy sauce has anchovies in it. This one does not. I did that intentionally. And I think it's for that saltiness. Okay. So, going to start adding the kale. For as bulky as it is right now, it's going to reduce so much. So this was about one bunch of kale. And if it seems like it's too much in the pan at that moment, you can always just add some, wait for it to reduce, and then add the rest. And, you know, I realize I didn't tear up all of these, which is fine. I mean, just do it. My hands are clean. I washed my hands again in the interim. And I sanitize my kitchen like every night because I cook in here every day. I like 99% of what I eat is something that I've made myself, which has been especially true in light of COVID. I've patroned some restaurants. Support some black restaurants, y'all. But I don't know. I have a lot of joy. That's my self-care for me, is cooking. And, you know, that varies for everybody. Like, when I really get in the mood, I will just cook up a whole kitchen worth of stuff. And also, I've been cooking so long that I have what some people will refer to as asbestos fingers. And also, when it comes to veggies, I love this where you can just like basically rip off whatever part of it doesn't look too good, because then you can still eat the rest. I have a bunch of tomatoes and peppers and delicious veggies growing in my garden right now. And I'm making some fried green tomatoes with some of the ripe or unripened tomatoes from out of my garden that I just plucked yesterday. I'm so excited. Maybe I'll have some of that with this sometime soon. Maybe tonight. I don't know. Depends on how I feel after getting all this stuff done. So clock says we have about 14 minutes left before the Hoppin John is done, which yay. I love being able to multitask with cooking. I can get a couple things done at the same time and, you know, let them do their business while another part of my meal is the active cooking part. Good Lord, there's just so many greens up in here. I think this is about the last bit, I swear. Working on them asbestos fingers. There's gonna be greens sliding up all over the place up in here, y'all. I'm sorry. I just don't have the proper pan for super bulky stuff like this. I have a Dutch oven and, you know, some other things, but I don't know. I just like I like how flat this one is. And I was already cooking the Hoppin John in a deeper pot. So in this part of the recipe, that's where it calls for adding some salt, a pinch of salt, if you will. I don't, because once again, the soy sauce is going to add plenty of that towards the end of this. And I want to be able to taste more of the grains than the salt. Okay, so we have about 12 minutes before Hoppin John is done. And I know sometimes when it comes to these soul food recipes, we really miss out on some of that smokiness that you would originally get from pork products. And I can't stress this enough. pick up some smoked paprika. It really, you know, it's obviously not going to be that pork flavor, but it does bring back some of that smokiness that maybe y'all are missing. That's, you know, otherwise just missing from this dish. Uh, my family and I order a large container of smoked paprika because we use it so much on so many dishes. And I think once you try it, you won't go back. And another thing that I just love is apple with smoked sea salt. Oh my gosh, it just adds something to a dish. You know, I can use a little bit, like a sprinkle of it, like once the dish is complete, or I will cook with it. Honestly, I've even had it like, it's gonna sound weird, but it's super good. Because I love the combination of sweet and salty in my food. I make old-fashioned oats with some crunchy peanut butter, and then you just sprinkle a little bit of smoked sea salt on top, and whew, it's so good. It's so quick, you know, and it fills you up for quite a while. Okay, so y'all see how this is like reduced within just a matter of a couple of minutes. And it'll continue to do that. And you don't have to add any more oil to the bottom of it if you're cooking it slow enough, because, you know, the water is going to basically evaporate out of the greens and provide a nice, happy cooking medium for this. Why do I sound like Bob Ross? A happy cooking medium. But yeah, while we're emphasizing, you know, black culture and black voices, and especially queer black voices and queer black culture, I thought it was important to bring some soul food into this. Because that's ultimately, that's a part of our identity too, is our food and how we were raised. And, you know, there's that intersection there that is just, it's so valid and valuable and needs to be seen, and we need to be seen when we do it. And also, I just wanted to make sure that we had plenty of, you know, some cooking options, because there is a growing population of vegan folks in the United States. Something that is a newer trend, I believe. And so, you know, you want to make things accessible and interesting to everybody, make it inclusive. A couple years ago, I lived in Israel for a little bit, and the population there, I think it was estimated at that point about 10% of the population had a vegan diet. And a lot of this is because of how it coincides with kosher and halal. So, I've never seen so many vegan options and so many different types of vegan cheeses, and, you know, the million things you can do with eggplant until I was over there. And some of the best hummus and falafel and pita and all these wonderful dishes. And I think that that's also made a big influence on how I cook even to this day, because I got spoiled while I was over there. I was studying abroad. I lived there for a little over 2 months, and I miss it so, so, so much. I can't wait to one day be able to go back, maybe do some more humanitarian work. But Mediterranean food also has a place in my heart. And, you know, kind of going back to what I had mentioned before about living, you know, I was a military brat. I lived very close to a military base. And I also lived, my gosh, within, I want to say about a mile or so from at least 4 Asian grocery stores. two of which were also like short stop restaurants. And it was just so cool to be able to go, you know, I had a routine. I would go get my kimchi once a week from this one shop, and I knew that the guy always delivered it on a Tuesday and sometimes a Thursday, and you could get some of the best like side dishes or banchan from the refrigerated section that were made in-house. And the owners, you know, became familiar with me and would like point out different ingredients like, oh, you should try this, you should try this. So, you know, that for me, that makes my day. That's a highlight of my life. Being able to just be immersed in a grocery store. Like, y'all, I love grocery shopping. This is like with the whole pandemic going on, it really breaks my heart because I love nothing more than like just picking out fresh food and picking out like delicious food and, you know, seeing something and just being like, I'm going to try to cook with that. I don't know what this is, but I'm going to do it. And as my family always jokes around, they say, you know, I'll never go hungry because you give me 3-4 ingredients and I can make it about 3 different ways at least. And also I have an overflowing spice cupboard. Okay, so that's starting to really stew down a bit. Wonderful. I love this color. And you can see all the little flecks of garlic in here. So, gonna continue to let this cook for about another 15 minutes. Hoppin John's almost done. That'll give enough time to kind of wrap up with some things. And yeah. Okay, so the timer just went off for the Hoppin John, and oh, y'all are gonna be so excited to see how beautiful this looks. Y'all gonna get some steam, so you know, a little bit of a anticipation smoke effect. Wow! Look at that. Ah, so good. You didn't think 1 cup of rice gonna do all that. And that lid just fell in the sink. We're gonna work with that later, okay. So you see that there's still a little bit of liquid in the bottom, which is great. Like, just keep letting this stew for a little bit then. I'm gonna leave the lid off though because, well, 2 reasons. It fell in the sink, and also it's gonna help with some of this, burn off some of this extra liquid that's at the bottom a lot quicker. Just remember to simmer this on low so that it doesn't overcook or burn at the bottom. Okay, just keep letting that stew for a bit. You know, the oh, I gotta add some smoked paprika. I was talking it all up to y'all. You know, it's time. Okay, so it says a teaspoon. That's enough. Okay. Ancestor said so. So gotta stop there. What can I say? I like the smokiness from smoked paprika. Just add something to it. You can also add a little bit of salt and pepper to taste. Keeping in mind though that the vegetable broth has some salt in it, so I'll just be a little bit cautious of that. Be a second while this cools off. Honestly, I don't think it needs any salt or pepper. Plus, you know, you're going to add some hot sauce at the end of this if that is your choosing. I know y'all are saying, wow, you know, you live alone, why you cook so much? Well, typically, you know, some days if I don't feel like cooking, or if I just want like a couple of staple items so that I can, you know, just make one little dish, this kind of stuff is so perfect for that. And I also have a tendency to feed my friends as one of my love languages. One of my best friends will probably benefit from this. Make him a plate and just drop it off on his porch. We joke around and call him a stray cat because it's the first friend I ever made in Durham. And I always tell the story because it's one of my favorite memories of Durham, and just how welcoming and lovely the community, especially my queer folk, are here. Oh my God. Without knowing me in person, we met through a dating app and became best friends. So y'all, seriously, dating apps can also work to make best friends. But I digress. So he found out that I love figs. And he just so happens to have a large fig tree in his backyard. And we had been talking back and forth for months. And it was right around the time when I was getting ready to leave, and he said, you know, when you're here, I won't be here that weekend that you make it here, but you're more than welcome to go out into my backyard and pick all the figs you want. Me, coming from an area where we're typically more skeptical of people, I'm like, oh no, I'm going to end up dying or something. Like, I feel like, is this how I roll out? So he's like, no, you're fine, just go ahead, you'll be fine. And I go to his house, he's out of town, and on the back fence it says, beware of dog. And then I really thought, oh crap, this is how I go out. This is how it ends, but I really want them figs though. So I texted him, I said, are you sure? He said, it's fine. I go out there, and I think for me, picking those figs out in this beautiful, like, shaded backyard, it was the first time in a long time that I had had any kind of peace in my life. And that memory will always stick with me. Just how peaceful it was being out there, listening to some music, and just quietly picking all the figs that I could ever imagine. And I ended up coming home with like 20 pounds plus of figs. So part about being a stray cat comes in with the first time that I actually met my friend was the following weekend, when I came over and made a homemade fig prosciutto arugula pizza. And, you know, we talked for hours and hours and hours. And ever since then, anytime I cook, it's one of my homies. I always make him a dish. And, yeah, that's, you know, one of the reasons I love it here in Durham, you know, the community. Our queer folk, we really make it a family affair, and I love it so much. So, last night, while I was in the cooking mode, my phone had too much of a good thing, and I actually ran out of memory. So it was a whole crazy thing. So I waited until this afternoon to finish up cooking these greens. And so, pretty much leaving where we left off last night, these are good to go. It's in the last steps of it. Add some smoked paprika. I added a little bit last night too, so but I didn't add the soy sauce because by the time I finished filming all this, y'all, I'm telling you, I was so tired. And I still had to clean up my kitchen, which I don't know when I got into this habit, but I always clean my kitchen at the end of the night. Like, no matter what time it is, it's a weird habit for me. I have to clean my kitchen at night. Yeah. So the last step in this is you add 2 tablespoons of soy sauce or tamari. 2-ish. Whatever, you know, you can add a little bit less, a little bit more, whatever is to your liking. I added about 2 tablespoons last time. It was pretty good. I liked it. It was the right amount of like that saltiness to bring out some of the bitterness from the greens. Bring that down to low, let that simmer. And these reheat so well on the stove or in the microwave for several days afterwards, because trust me, I did do that. But really, this is all there is to it with making some real simple soul food kale greens and some vegan Hoppin John. So I hope that y'all liked this video and stick around for some more. Thanks for supporting the LGBTQ Center of Durham,